Hey, crypto media friends, welcome back to another overtime on top of the overtime show. Because today I want to talk about a little bit about the charity. I feel like I miss charity. I miss the old degen days when founders would pretend that they're not greedy by saying that they were going to give a small percentage of the Ethereum to charities. And it's just something I felt like has been lost lately, and wanted to highlight something that maybe actually doing some good in the Antonio Banderas, who is auctioning off an NFT in support of the Starlight Foundation in Marbella, Spain, by world-renowned artist Pedro Sandoval. And I thought not just the attempt here was really cool, but I was also just happened to be in a conversation with Wisekey here, Sixtine Crutchfield, and friend Denise Dorman, about artists and onboarding artists in the space. And we had a nice conversation, and I wanted to share it with you guys. Welcome, crypto media friends, to another overtime show. Here I am with Sixtine Crutchfield and Denise Dorman, talking about what what I love about this channel and what we do here is we take conversations we find in the deepest reaches of the internet and bring them to a broader audience. And this is an interesting one that I was having with Denise about her. She's a PR maven who notably does so for her husband, the Eisner Award-winning, Inkpot-winning Dave Dorman. Voted #1 Star Wars artist by fans, and Sixtine Crutchfield from Wisekey. And it was about that process of having a really great artist entering the Web3 space, but having some stumbling blocks and having some difficulty through the space because these areas of security and monetization, which we want to do. We want to, as artists, get out there and monetize, but we can only do so when we have the correct contracts into place. Contracts meaning, of course, smart contracts in place, so that the things can actuate. And I think that Wisekey has an interesting approach, and I wanted to talk more and have this conversation out loud for our audience. And so welcome, Denise and Sixtine, again.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And Sixtine, could you please give us a sort of backstory of how you entered this space of Web3?
Sure. I haven't been in it for very long. The founder of Wisekey has, though. He was part of Web1. He worked in Geneva in Switzerland at CERN, which is the nuclear research center where the internet was born. And he's been in it very much since. He's been busy with the security of the Vatican, of the UN, of Gibraltar, and many other official places. And he decided.
I love the idea of just the birthplace of the internet. I feel like do you have pilgrims who come to to touch the server?
It's weird to think that it was in Geneva as well. I have to say, it's a very small. I mean, it's a small town, and 150,000 inhabitants, and it's just gone viral very quickly. But great to be living in it, I have to say. So yeah, the idea of Wise.Art came in as he was seeing it develop, and of course the Web3 is on our doorstep, and it needed to be safe. And because he's so into protecting the human being inside of all of this artificial intelligence, that's his main leitmotif, if you like. And so that's what we do. And also not so with the artists, of course, and with the art as well that's at hand, because we also work with museums to protect the masterpieces and the archives, probably for future generations, but also for the collectors, because they also get hacked and they also lose their NFTs and things like that. So we try and protect the human being behind all this machinery, if you like, or technology.
And I'd love to, again, drill down as much as, you feel comfortable with in terms of, your guys' process. And, could you walk us through, say, I have, and this is where our launching point for our original conversation came. If I have because I think it's so revolutionary, because I know that, artists right now could start off and say, okay, I'm going to put something on the blockchain and this is a new piece. But retroactively, as if I'm a museum, if I have an existing piece, how do I protect it utilizing the blockchain?
Okay, so maybe I should start by saying that museums for the last, say, 2, 3 years have been very active, and they've used COVID for that, that the museums were closed, to actually look into their collections and really catch up with the collection management. And a lot of museums, at least European ones, are not digitalized. And a lot of people find that strange, hard to believe, but it's the truth. And so we came in and said, like, while you're doing all that work, make NFT twins out of it, put them on the blockchain. That way, they're secure. Plus the fact that they're open to the public, because 90% of the works that are in museums are in the archives or in the cellars or in crates somewhere in another, location altogether. So by creating these NFTs while they were actually digitalizing the work anyway, so hitting two stones with the same aim or the same rock, the idea is that it becomes part of future generation heritage, and it'll be inscribed and it's immutable. Now, obviously, a lot of people are asking me, like, if it's a fake to begin with, because we also know that a lot of museums are holding fakes. What can you do about it? I said, well, we're not in the business of authenticating the physical artwork. So whatever documentation they have to prove that it's the authentic artwork, we make sure that the link to the blockchain is verified and authentic. So in that way, yes, and that's our technology that does that, to make sure that the actual algorithm is the one that fits both items, and that's the Internet of Things.
And so in that, it's so fascinating. I think I almost heard you sort of talk and speak in the word phygital, which is, sort of this term that sort of, lies in between, but it's as you said, it's this interconnectedness of having something on the blockchain that is in real life. And how do you make that item, go from physical to phygital, connected to the blockchain by way of, it's obvious from the smart contract, if you do a double of it, of an NFT, but how do you tie that NFT to the physical object?
So we have the Wisekey also works with electronic chips and semiconductors. That's their core business before Wise.Art Wise.Art even existed. So now what we're doing is we're selling a chip, a little electronic device, which is affixed in a special way to the physical work. And on there, if you scan that, in that little tiny antenna is the link to the algorithm, to the NFT, and to the contract. So when somebody scans the physical work, they will get the link to the authentic or identical twin on the blockchain.
And so, Denise, if you may, like, does this type of technology help artists, like your husband and you guys? I think of you guys as a team, when you're bringing your things to market. Does this help in terms of, like, being that the authentication process is going to verify that it's, it's a legit work? Because I imagine there's probably a lot of duplications of your husband's work out there.
There are so many duplications. And the other issue to me is, and I think I shared this with you in an email, I think with both of you, the other issue to me is, as an illustrator, I feel like illustrators are so underpaid for what they create. For example, my husband did this one particular piece of art called Lord Vader's Persuasion of the Outer Rim. And that particular piece of art,
it's a comedy, I believe, right? Yeah.
Pardon?
It's a comedy piece, I imagine, right?
It's a scene that never happened. He's kind of famous for doing these scenes that never happened in Star Wars. That's what he's kind of known for. I think Cory Doctorow actually did a piece on it on Twitter one time. But anyway, the frustration is that, you get so much money for a piece and that's it. You never get any royalty. You never have any kind of a, licensing deal. And a lot of illustrators are starving artists. I mean, Dave is fortunate that he actually creates physical art because he does oil painting and then he scans it in and then he sends them the digital file. And then we still have like the original piece. And a lot of times with like comic book covers, if a comic is published, then that piece of art goes up exponentially because of the value of it being a published piece. So at least he has a physical piece to attach that NFT chip to, whereas most illustrators are using, you know, Illustrator and Photoshop and that sort of thing, and they just have digital art. So they, once they sell that off to whomever it's licensed to, they're never getting another royalty. So to my mind, our photographers, you know, did it right from the beginning. They always got royalties, or they always got some sort of a licensing deal from the front end of taking any image, whereas illustrators have never had that that legal framework. And so I would like to see that change, where everything's put out in NFT, and every time, you know, that art gets published on another toy, another lunchbox, another puzzle, we get a piece of it. Everybody thinks that because you're famous, you're wealthy, and it's not. The two don't coincide a lot of times, especially with illustrators.
We talk a lot about that a lot here on the
Yeah.
channel of, you know, of famous people being, you know, quite humble. I did a very long documentary with where I get to sit with Stan Lee for a long time, and it was just bizarre to me that Stan wasn't, you know, sitting on these, on like, you know, the Game of Thrones throne with, you know, pearly gates and everything. It was quite humble, and
Yeah.
it was due to the fact that, you know, he had been robbed quite often and quite thoroughly, you know, by his employers that he had, you know, gained fame through. And
Right.
so I guess, you know, Sixtine, is there a way that you guys offer, you know, what's the pitch in a sense to artists, you know, who are starting out, you know, maybe they have, you know, they're working on still in the physical medium because that's where their passion lies, and they want to connect to this world of blockchain to secure their work. What's your pitch to them?
So well, the platform is open to everyone, and I think Denise is absolutely right. The royalty is for the secondary market is key, because it will grow. Like the percentage will never change. So we often say don't put too high of a percentage, because as the price goes exponentially upward, hopefully, you know, so does obviously the percentage is bigger. So because it's the fee, it goes, the onus is on the buyer to pay that royalty. If all of a sudden your piece is worth 100,000 when it started at 1,000, say, you know, the 10% or the whatever percentage the artist has put in at the beginning, that doesn't change. So it becomes bigger all the time and could be discouraging. So we say keep that percentage low in order that the work gets sold and sold over again, so that it grows with the artist. And we say that, and we also have a clause in our smart contract terms and conditions, is that the reproduction rights are also not without the artist's approval. Or if the artist has some sort of history, like he can say, like, you know, decide the percentage on if it goes on a t-shirt, or if it's used in another sequence, or if it's used maybe by a musician for a video clip or whatever. And that way, when the video clip gets, you know, played a million times, or bought on Spotify or whatever it is, the artist who actually did the video clip for him, the illustrator, will also be remunerated as the musician at the same time. And all that can be, I mean, you can put anything you like in a smart contract, and we have a legal department who actually advises on that. And what we do with a physical piece of art is that we tag it, and then usually we just do a physical, like a photograph of it, like just a plain JPEG. But we also offer other artists and encourage them to do GIFs or to do animations, because it so happens now the fashion is that you know, moving videos are more popular. So for example, if we work with an existing piece where the artist has already died, we will supply an animation of 45 seconds, no more than that, but it will just make it a little bit more interesting. So obviously the physical piece is that, and then the NFT, if you like, is a bonus for the collector, or is what the collector will buy. And it enables a museum in this instance to raise funds, or it would enable, for example, David to raise funds for the next production or whatever.
It's fascinating. You'd have to look in this crystal ball, right? You know, right now, I'm like, okay, in 5 years, this could happen, because, you know, once you put it in the smart contract, that's kind of what happens in a sense, and how it actuates. And it's really fascinating to me that, you know, two parts. One, that you could program for future remuneration via, like as you said, if this thing were used in a video clip, and collecting those royalties, I think, is sort of the challenge for everybody from the artist standpoint of like, oh yeah, like they used it, but I didn't get paid for it. How does the smart contract help in that instance in terms of collection?
Automated. So the minute that the NFT is created, so we at Wise.Art we do lazy minting. So the minting only happens once the piece is bought the first time. But then once it's minted, it's automated in the system, and it's not on our system. It's out on the cloud.
And
And
what platform is that, if I may ask? Is it
so what
Ethereum, Tezos?
we're multi-chain. So we do Ethereum, Polygon, and Casper Lab. They're a smaller blockchain, and we're in discussion through one artist who's working with Tezos already, and he's actually introduced us. So we may very well in the future be Tezos as well.
It's fascinating because that's the thing is like, when you're looking at your crystal ball, as we are, live in the past year, it's just like, the we have an understanding the marketplace could actually change. It could move away from the Ethereum chain. If this merge doesn't happen well next month, it could all explode, and then suddenly, oh gosh, we all have to be on Polygon to support the things that we need to have to happen on Ethereum, or we all move, or the art world especially is very strong in Tezos, strong in very specific chains that or marketplaces that cater to them, and they know that they can get a better sales price, etc., than sort of the mass markets that is OpenSea.
Yeah, I think Tezos took the right bets because they talked about the environment first. That was what their core thing was. And then, well, I've been to Art Basel now in the last two editions, being in Geneva. It's not that far to go to. And Tezos has grown. Like at the last one now in June, they had conferences every day. Like you could go and listen to them. And they had a whole booth, and they were giving away NFTs. And they were opening wallets with people. Like they had staff there that was saying, okay, here's your phone. This is what you do, blah, blah, blah. And within 5 minutes you had a Tezos wallet. So I think, even those that, I mean, I got one only because I was curious and I got sucked into it, but I'm not regretting it in any way. But it was very efficient, I have to say.
Giving out free drugs essentially to get you hooked.
Yeah.
Denise, what were some of the sticking points for you, as a, again, I think of you guys as a team, but as artists coming into the marketplace, what were the sticking points technically for you? Was it getting the wallet? Was it, finding the marketplace, etc.?
I think just as a overarching perspective, there's friction on the front end for a lot of people because, I mean, quite honestly, my stuff is still on the exchange. I don't have a cold wallet. I haven't downloaded all of my crypto into a cold wallet yet. So I think that there is some intimidation and friction on the front end, just getting everybody on an equal playing field. But speaking from our experience with NFTs, I can't remember the platform that we used, but the initial platform that we used, we did just a piece of art, and one of Dave's fans contacted us, said, I want to buy this piece because I want to be the first one of your fans to buy your first NFT. And so Dave said, okay, then he was only asking, I think, 150 for the NFT, and then the platform charged an additional 150. So his fan came back to him and said, I just want to let you know they charged an additional 150. And Dave said, well, that's it. I'm pulling out of this deal, and we're not going to do this. So
So it sounds like that, obviously that's intimidating because you don't want to feel, I think a lot of artists have that same thing. We don't want to be putting our fans in peril, into something that's, is either counterfeit or is taking advantage of them in some way where it's going to seem like it's lost value.
Right.
Sixtine, how do you guys approach, artists who might not be savvy with Web3? Do you literally white glove and take them through the whole process?
Absolutely. Well, we met Denise and I met through an artist who's thinking of onboarding. But I mean, people apply on the platform, they hear about us, or they're people who know me, and then it's really hand in hand. We do every step of the way. We open the wallet on whatever chain they want. We take them through the steps of the smart contract with all the legal issues, and we have an agreement with them, which is not the smart contract at all. It's an agreement, verbal agreement, which is not verbal, on paper, and they sign it, we sign it, we send it back to them, and on that agreement it says we will do the marketing, we will do all the social media. Because we're listed on NASDAQ, we have so many minutes per year on the NASDAQ tower in Times Square, so we make sure that all the the artists are on there at least once or twice in the year. It's not so much efficient at the time because you get the 30 seconds every hour, and there's so many people on Times Square. You'd have to really know, and you don't know when it's going. But then Nasdaq Tower, the people behind it, send us the video of it, and then we share that on social media, and of course we share it with the artists when they're on there. Right now we're selling, this weekend we're selling 10,000 NFTs for a charity which is headed or presided by Antonio Banderas for a film festival in Spain. And so he's on there now at the moment, but it's an ongoing thing. So on our contract, it says all of those things. And then the only thing we ask of the artist is that he doesn't or she doesn't upload the same NFT on another platform at the same time. We're not exclusive. They can go, artists can go on in whatever platform and how many platforms they want, but not use the same image with us and somewhere else. That's the only thing we ask. And then
So
we're very clear about the commissions. I mean, we take care of all the gas fees. The minting fees are ours. The gas fees go for the buyer. And of course they change because it depends how much volume there is at the time or whatever. So it's difficult to predict, but Casper is pretty cheap. It's less popular and less known than Ethereum. So that's a choice one has to make. And then we take 20% and 80% goes to the artist. And if the artist has an agent, like a gallery working with them, we will split our share. So the gallery takes 10 and we take 10, and the artist always gets 80.
Nice. Denise, you had a
Yeah.
question?
yeah, I was just curious about this. So artists are putting one piece of art on more than one NFT, because to my mind, that just dilutes the value of the NFT if it's in more than one. That surprised me that you said that.
Okay, it depends. We have some artists that have unique NFTs with unique art pieces, obviously. Other artists who have digital work only, they make editions. And then again, like you said, mentioned before, for photography, we also say it's an edition of 5 or an edition of 7, or it's a series of 5 different photographs, but there's maybe 3 of each. But when it's for a charity and we want to raise as much as possible, in this case for Antonio Banderas, but we also did it for the kids in Ukraine, etc., then we sell them cheaply. We think the minimum on our platform should not be under $100. So the lowest NFT with us would be $100, but then we will make a series of 10,000. But it's not so much about the NFT then, or about the art. It's more about the philanthropy behind it, or the charity behind it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So there's
Antonio
different
Banderas has been
reasons.
having some really, really tough years. So let's all make sure that we take care of Antonio and and that he's well. But I think it is a great point, Denise, that having that a second sort of NFT based upon it. But obviously in the art world that happens with editions, having multiples of the same, and so that tracking and stuff I think becomes the hard work ahead for companies like Wisekey, but it seems like they have this depth of experience, and you mentioned like the Nasdaq and all these sort of things, and so it seems like Wisekey has these inherent possibilities within them in this space. Can you talk more about some of the benefits that Wisekey has when approaching this space?
Yeah, I think the experience in the cybersecurity realm, and knowing what to do if we're hacked or whatever. We've got a team of developers and of technological people, and that's not my field, but like, we feel pretty safe in that respect. And 25 years experience, and I think a CEO and a founder who really believes in that. I mean, that's all he talks about, is protecting the space at all costs. And he's very worried about the Web3, that again we go on the wrong, we start on the wrong foot. So that's our main concern, and I think that really helps because it comes across in every message, etc. And then we also know who comes on the platform. Like, there is a registration, and you put in your profile like on any other platform, but then we ask for ID and we ask for the name. So if somebody comes up and is called the goldfish, we will know who is behind the goldfish, and we have their address, we have a photocopy of their ID, etc., which of course is confidential, but at least we know. And that's for every collector that comes on, and for anyone who comes on the platform needs to register only the one time. Afterwards, you get your name, you can put in whatever nickname you want, but the first time you come on, you need to register, and that information is kept confidential, but we have it.
Yeah, and it's interesting to have that backbone of cybersecurity within, you know, a company that is, you know, doing you know, doxing in a sense, and getting KYC, you know, from their customers, so that they don't feel that, you know, their information is ever at risk. And so sounds like an amazing platform. I think it's Wise.Art. You're in front of it there. Wise.Art. I'll put a link down. I'm teasing. I'll put a link down below to access it, the platform. And you know, I think I'll ask everybody to drop your name as well, Sixtine Crutchfield, so that because they know you now, the audience knows you now, and so they can ask more questions, because I think it's a really fantastic service, and it's in need of, because as you said, as this thing is developing and forming, if there aren't protections for artists, if there's only exploitation, if there's only speculation and flipping, it's going to turn into the ugly beast that the previous versions, became. And we're going to have, market busts and booms and more busts. And that's the things that I think we can avoid by, looking at how fast this thing is moving, and the experience that we've had, for those who've looking back at Web 1 and Web 2. So thank you very much for adding your insight, guys. Really, really super invaluable. I'm sure I'll try and catch up with you guys more as some sort of like cyber, Web3 threat or something comes by. I'm gonna ring you guys, and we're gonna chat again.
Great. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.